Beautiful shot there from EarthCam at 1 Vanderbilt, looking north Midtown Manhattan across Central Park. It has been so rainy here in New York. I think this is our first nice day since 2021. Welcome back. The first debate of the New York City mayoral Democratic primary will be held this Wednesday. 9 candidates in the crowded field have qualified to take the stage, including former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is looking to make his political comeback in this race. Joining us now, New York City Assemblyman and one of the candidates for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Assemblyman, thank you so much for being here this morning. Your candidacy has truly surged. It is a crowded field, as just noted. For a few months now, you've been pretty firmly lodged in second place, a gap that was once about 30 to 40 points behind Cuomo, now down to about 9 or 10. So still, a deficit, but smaller than it was. But as voters start to get to know you, they know Andrew Cuomo. What's your pitch?
I tell them what they already know, which is that we live in the most expensive city in the United States of America. And it's a city that used to be one of dreams that is now just one of struggle. And we're seeing 1 in 4 New Yorkers living in poverty and so many living in this permanent state of anxiety. And this is a campaign looking to make the city affordable for the very working class New Yorkers who built it, who today are being pushed out of it.
So a lot of that sounds familiar to what Mayor Bill de Blasio ran on in 2013. A tale of two cities was his slogan, suggesting that it was unaffordable for most. What makes you think? What are your concrete plans that are going to be successful when perhaps some of your predecessors were not?
We've sketched it out because what New Yorkers deserve is a plan that actually speaks to the crisis in their lives. And affordability is the #1 crisis. So we're going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing. We're going to make the slowest buses in the nation fast and free. And we're going to deliver universal child care to each and every New Yorker, whether their child is 6 weeks or 5 years of age. Because today, child care is the #2 reason people are leaving our city. And it makes sense. It costs $25,000 a year to raise a kid here, which is more money than it would cost to send that same kid to CUNY 18 years later.
So the Working Families Party, which has certainly credentials on the left, released its ranked endorsements of candidates. You were atop that just the other day, and it is ranked choice voting for this coming primary. But what do you say, though, to Democrats who look at what we saw in November with Vice President Harris losing? And a lot of the post-game analysis, if you will, was that the party had moved too far to the left, that it was actually time to come back to the center a little bit, to connect to a lot of those working-class blue-collar voters who have broken for Trump in recent cycles. That seems to be what Governor Cuomo is saying. What do you say to people who say, well, I like the guy, but he's not right for this moment. He's too lefty?
Well, I think we as politicians need to lecture less and listen more. And when we saw New York have the greatest swing towards Trump in the entire nation, 11.5 points, we saw that it took place in the hearts of immigrant New York. And so I went there to Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens. I asked those voters, why did they vote for him? And they told me they remembered having more money in their pocket 4 years ago. I asked them what it would take to bring them back to the Democratic Party. They said a relentless focus on an economic agenda. And when I told them my plan to freeze the rent, make buses fast and free, deliver universal child care, they said that they would vote for me. And I think ultimately that's what we need, is a recognition that for too long our party has moved away from working class voters. It's time we actually bring them back, and it's time we do so with an agenda that is not only urgent but possible. It's just a question of political will.
So let's turn to public safety now. Any New York City mayor, that's a top priority. Giuliani, Bloomberg, de Blasio, the like. Mayor Adams ran on that first centrally 4 years ago. What is your relationship? What is your plan for policing, including there are some who suggest that, you're perhaps not supportive enough of the police department?
I've been very clear, which is that police have a critical role to play in creating public safety. And when I speak to those officers on the beat, I hear a frustration from them that we're asking them to do more than just focus on serious crimes. We're asking them to do the work of mental health professionals and social workers. And that reliance on having them deal with almost every failure of the social safety net is making it impossible for them to tackle those crimes. And so that's why we have put forward a proposal to create a Department of Community Safety that would focus on the mental health crisis, that would focus on gun violence, hate crimes, and ensure that we allow police to do their jobs and we hire mental health professionals to do the work that they are best suited to do.
And we've been talking all morning about this incident yesterday in Boulder, Colorado, where some some elderly, mostly Jewish residents were holding a peaceful march just asking for hostages to come home from Gaza. They were attacked by a man with a makeshift flamethrower. It is just the latest in a rise of anti-Semitic violent incidents across the country. New York City, of course, home to by far the largest Jewish population in the United States. What is your message to those voters, to Jewish residents of New York City who feel for their safety? Why should they trust you at the helm?
You know, I hear them, and I hear that fear when I speak to Jewish New Yorkers across the city. And ultimately, Jewish New Yorkers deserve to be protected. They deserve to be safe. And as the next mayor of the city, that's what I will do. And I've heard, especially when we speak about anti-Semitism, how do we go beyond just talking about it? How do we actually tackle it? And that's why at the heart of that proposal to create a Department of Community Safety is a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%, the very programming we've seen be effective at countering the rise in these kinds of attacks.
All right, certainly a fascinating race. The primary just a few weeks away. Candidate for New York City Mayor, Selman Zohran Mamdani. Selman, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.